You did threaten a lawyer if he didn't interview. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's how. That's how. A lot of people, I don't think understand that's how that works in the
Okay.
industry.
It's Francis, baby, with the truth as our guide.
What happened, right? What happened in the
Okay.
last 24 hours with the Deoxy interview? Because I think you were basically called a liar, and that I can imagine how that affects people, especially like when you know that what you're doing, you don't feel like you're lying, and especially when people kind of just go out and attack, kind of, right?
Right.
I don't think Deoxy, to be honest, I don't think Deoxy attacked you. I think he just had, like receipts. He's like, wait, that didn't happen, or he feels that didn't happen, or this was that, or this and that. And I think that there's a lot of things that weren't clear. And I think we should just leave them clear
I,
and it's done, right?
well, I
Yeah.
mean,
Ask away.
you,
Go rapid fire these questions to me. But I would say
so
about what I'll say about the Oxford quicker is that I don't mind people coming to their own conclusions as long as and I posted this somewhere. As long as your goal is for communication, understanding of a situation, and not taking certain facts and building a toxic, hateful environment, which is why I reached out to him. I was like, hey, if you have any questions you want to ask me, and I'm a big fan of just talk to me. I'll explain everything, and everything's cool. And then when you like ignore and then repost and retweet other things, I was like, well, it seems like your goal is not for understanding and information. It's to build a, like a negative rapport. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. Like, why would you do that? But that would be my I was like, oh, just talk to me. I saw someone like that. Like he was complaining online. He's like, look at what he's doing. And someone's like, why didn't you just respond to him and talk to him? And I was like, yeah, why didn't you just do that?
well, one, he doesn't owe you a response, and two, you did threaten a lawyer if he didn't interview. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's how. That's how. A lot of people, I don't think understand that's how that works in the
Okay.
industry. Because if he was like, no, Aaron, I'm gonna go. Because originally I think Jason asked John Berthenol because he was Berthenol. Did I say that right?
Personal.
He's
Kind of
friends
fair.
with him, and he was like, hey, if he's like Aaron, if we can get John though, I think that'd be better. And I was like, yeah,
Oh
get John.
yeah.
If you get John, like do that, like So, but that didn't work out. But it was a mutual thing as far as what Jason wanted and what I would think was best for the project and so forth. So it's like a very much a group, choice of what we think's the best.
And I mean, it works a lot. About, if you think about it, all these people, even after Jason passed, still came back, reshooted. They did, you guys reshot. You did ADR, Mark Dacascos, David Ramsey. Everybody came back, and you can say that Mark Dacascos and David Ramsey are bigger names, right? And they came back, and it speaks a lot about the love of Jason, and also with you, right? Because if you were like this person that wasn't honest, or a good person, or someone that had a good connection with people, then they wouldn't come back. It's done, and the star is gone. You know what I mean? And that speaks volumes, I think. So I know that you're on limited time, and so I want to get through what happened, right? What happened in the
Okay.
last 24 hours with the Deoxy interview? Because I think you were basically called a liar, and that I can imagine how that affects people, especially like when you know that what you're doing, you don't feel like you're lying, and especially when people kind of just go out and attack, kind of, right?
Right.
I don't think Deoxy, to be honest, I don't think Deoxy attacked you. I think he just had, like receipts. He's like, wait, that didn't happen, or he feels that didn't happen, or this was that, or this and that. And I think that there's a lot of things that weren't clear. And I think we should just leave them clear
I,
and it's done, right?
well, I
Yeah.
mean,
Ask away.
you,
Go rapid fire these questions to me. But I would say
so
what I'll say about the Oxford quicker is that I don't mind people coming to their own conclusions as long as and I posted this somewhere. As long as your goal is for communication, understanding of a situation, and not taking certain facts and building a toxic, hateful environment, which is why I reached out to him. I was like, hey, if you have any questions you want to ask me, and I'm a big fan of just talk to me. I'll explain everything, and everything's cool. And then when you like ignore and then repost and retweet other things. I was like, well, it seems like your goal is not for understanding and information. It's to build a, like a negative rapport. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. Like, why would you do that? But that would be my I was like, oh, just talk to me. I saw someone like that. Like, he was complaining online. He's like, look at what he's doing. And someone's like, why didn't you just respond to him and talk to him? And I was like, yeah, why didn't you just do that?
Well, one, he doesn't owe you a response, and two, you did threaten a lawyer if he didn't interview. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's how. I mean, a lot of people, I don't think understand that's how that works in the
Okay.
industry.
Fair.
Like,
So
that's the advice I get from the lawyer. Because basically, if someone is calling you a liar or whatever, it's best to say, hey, my lawyer is going to reach out. Now, someone put out the word sue or whatever, which I didn't say that. But what happens, a lawyer will reach out and be like, hey, it's basically like a mediator to make sure that things don't escalate. Although people, I think, young fans don't know that's kind of how it works in the industry.
okay, so do you feel like Deoxy lied about you?
I mean, his headline is "Bat in the Sun lied?" ? And then if you read all the comments, everyone just is agreeing with him that I'm like garbage.
So is that a yes or a no? Like, do you think Deoxy lied about you?
I think he used information to betray things that were incorrect.
Is that yes or no? I'm like, all right, let's go to another question. What did he say
Okay.
was false? Because you posted specifically that, and I could read the post or I could share the post. You said there are a lot of talkers and haters online. This guy posted a video full of false info and edited my interview, so a lot of details were missing. So what was false in his video, and what details from your interview were missing? It's kind of like a two-part question.
So, okay, so that's, I'd have to go back and watch it again. I watched it, and I'm very busy, and this stuff, I know it's like a big deal to you guys. I know it seems like a really, really big deal. You guys like think about it all the time. I don't. So he said, like, a lot of stuff he said about Boom and Hasbro and Amy and stuff that I posted, like that stuff was just all like a lot of information was missing, and like he took out a lot of the story. So I have to read the comments again. I try to respond to them because I live in the moment because I'm busy doing stuff. That's why I respond really quick, because I'm like, I'm present. And I
so you didn't watch the video. So did you watch his video? Okay, so you watched his video, but you don't know off the top of your head what was false or what was missing from your original that he manipulated.
If you ask me the questions, like I said, it had to do with stuff about Amy. It had to do stuff about like Jason not like, oh, he was credited, but I'm like, but he wasn't really credited.
Okay, so
that kind of stuff.
Let's start with that.
All right. Questions, like, go to the whole video and ask me.
You stated that JDF was not credited for Soul of the Dragon in your interview. That was a correct statement. However, Deoxy unearthed proof that Jason was credited. So would that make your original statement a lie?
No. So what I was saying in the original is that Jason was not created as being a co-creator of the project. And for those people in the industry, what?
You didn't? No. If you're saying that, if now you're trying to switch your original interview to, hey, he wasn't credited as a co-creator, that's different from saying he was not credited at all. Because now you're misleading fans to think that, hey, they just stole this idea from Jason. And then without Deoxy putting out this video, I don't think we'll have this interview where you're saying, oh, he wasn't credited as a co-creator.
So I probably left that out, and that was my mistake. And I should have said that he co-created. But when I was talking about it, because the whole topic was about how, don't roll your eyes, Henry.
I'm just saying, you said he's a liar, and I'm like, well, he didn't lie in his video. His video's true.
Here's how you're misportraying the truth. When me and Francis had the conversation, we were talking about how Boom stole ideas that we created, and I go, Jason wasn't credited. So what happens is if you just go, Jason wasn't credited, you're like, well, he got credit. And I was like, but if you take that first part out, where I was talking about how we created it and he wasn't credited for it, I go, then it looks like I'm lying. But I wasn't lying. You just took part of what I was saying out, and that's the point I'm saying. So when we talked on there, I said that we created a bunch of this stuff and Jason wasn't credited for it. He was credited as a consultant, which also, just to put into reference real quick, in the industry, when people are labeled as a consultant, that's like you being written off as if you haven't really done anything.
But as we fans, we're taking this at face value. If you say he wasn't credited and you don't come back to say, hey, he wasn't credited as a co-creator, then we're we're weaponized against Boom Comics to think, hey, they just stole this shit from a lot of people's favorite hero, a lot of people's favorite Ranger.
Right. But okay, so here Francis brought up an email, I think, right?
Yeah. So this, you know what happened was we were talking, right? We were talking, flowing. I personally knew what Aaron was talking about because I knew that Jason had more of an effect, more of just a consultant in Soul of the Dragon. But you know, we didn't go in depth. We were just talking. We are trying to get through all the points. But I understood that, right? But I understand where Henry's coming from because it makes it seem like he wasn't credited at all. So of course, you go to the back of Soul of the Dragon, and there is of course, a credit as a consultant. And you know, the good thing that Aaron speaks about, hey, like the day before it came out, I got an email and they basically said that they weren't going to credit, you know, Aaron and Jason, and that they were going to give Jason, and this is the email, they only gave Jason let's say a BS, to me, right, a BS uh credit because they they didn't want to get on Jason's bad side. At the end of the day, if Jason would have been like, hey, I worked on Soul of the Dragon and I didn't get not one credit, people would have probably lost their minds. And let me just go through the email. It says, hi Aaron, thanks for checking in. A quick update on the OGN. The book, which has been titled Power Rangers Soul of the Dragon, has significantly changed shape over the last several months and become something wholly unique, a story about Tommy Oliver, that
Which is
explores
what it was
all of the. Did I skip something? A story
I
about
said
Tommy
no. I said
Oliver.
that's what the story was all about. They changed it
Yeah.
to what our pitch was to what our pitch was.
A story about Tommy Oliver that explores all of the different Ranger personas he's assumed over the years. Considering how far this project has evolved and how new and unique it has become, Boom has an obligation to reflect those changes in the crediting of the series. This means that we will be focusing on the primary creative staff only. That said, in all transparency, we'll likely reach out to Jason David Frank to discuss likeness, which could result in some kind of specific credit to be determined. Suffice it to say, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but suffice it to say, I want to thank you for your passion. Please know that the door remains open for future Power Rangers discussions as well as other kinds of creative. To me, this means that you had obviously they spoke to you guys, which is, I mean, you and I know, and I know Jason has spoken. There's countless interviews where Jason speaks about, you know, going and giving these ideas and then never getting credit or then never getting anything out of it. So here they're saying they're only giving Jason credit because of his likeness, not because of the input that he put in the Soul of the Dragon.
This would
So
have
that's
been
Right,
what I'm.
great
and
if
to
it
go
was in the
further,
interview.
here, right,
But
here's an actual text from Jason that you can see right here if you want to screenshot or whatever, and I'll read it to you.
let me
But
see if I can zoom
basically, I
in.
go,
Hold on.
I'll say,
Hold on.
still pissed they took our names off it. You know, it was us who went to Boom to get it started. And Jason replies, they put my name on the front cover like some BS consulting to sell books. He
You
goes,
can
they did
put
the
it up
same thing with Amy.
because
There
we're
you go.
now.
This is a text from Jason, and then he's saying I don't trust Brian for all this sort of stuff. So you can see that Jason was not happy with that, and it was just some BS garbage. So that's my thing is, and really my intention is Jason was hurt by that because he's like, I had this idea, I want this. He goes, why can't it say story by us? And I was like, and with a lot of stuff, it'd be cool if my name's on there, but at the same time, I could see it affected Jason in a different way than it affected me. And I was like, I want him to have that recognition. He put this all together, and that's why it's very frustrating. I was like, why isn't he giving credit?
Okay.
And by credit, I mean a co-creating credit.
But that wasn't in the video. So when you got a YouTuber who's making a video off of what's publicly available at the moment, and you say he wasn't credited, and then he's like, oh, he's credited, and you calling him a liar, you said he's lying on you. And I'm like,
which is why I reached out to him and said, hey, let's have a conversation so I can express all the details.
So he didn't lie on you, to be fair. To clear Deoxy's name, he did not lie on you.
On that one, he's manipulating the truth.
But he didn't
what
know
was the truth? What truth
what
was out there at the time for him to know that, oh, Jason was not credited as a co-creator? What truth is he manipulating?
If you listen to me and Francis' interview, we were talking about him creating it. So, but I'm not also here to talk about Deoxy and his
Yeah,
silly little video. But
Oh, come on,
but
man. That wasn't a silly video. It was a great video.
I
It was a great
mean,
video.
sure. I mean, it's fun. It's fun to
not to
watch.
Aaron, obviously. I
Well,
mean, it's against Aaron, but let's not digress because we have limited time. I think that a lot of
okay.
people, right? What Henry's trying to say is we didn't go in depth into what we even though we were mentioning about creating, we didn't go in depth, right, with that. And because we didn't expect I mean, I personally didn't expect that people were gonna like chop it up and dissect it, but
Yeah.
in reality it's good that someone comes off and actually, you know, scrutinizes things, because then we'll learn to make things better, right? And
No, and
then,
I
you
love it.
know,
I love that.
not to push forward. But this is
So
actually from something that you and Jason created, Rise
Yes.
of the
Also,
Emerald
for
Dragon.
the record,
one more
Henry.
question. One more question. If
Okay,
Deoxy doesn't give you an interview, are you going to send lawyers at him?
I wish he would respond. I think it's kind of cowardice to not. But I'm glad that he posted the video. Like, you have to understand that I think this whole thing is very fun. Huh?
I said that does not answer the question. Are you going to send lawyers at Deoxy if he never interviews you? If he says, you know what, Aaron,
no.
He doesn't
If
need Deoxy to interview him. He's answering right now.
That's what I said.
No. But if he would to further use information to paint a bad picture that's untrue, which is defamation of character, I could reach out. That's why I'm like, what is your essentially? When I reached out to him, I was like, what is your goal here? Is your goal to just, you want to answer stuff, or do you want to actually put down the brand and put me down? I go, what are you after? That's why I reached out to him, but I didn't threaten him with anything. I was like, if you don't answer and you keep doing this, I'm gonna have to like have my lawyers reach
silence
out and see
him.
I didn't. You said silence. I didn't say silence.
But that's typically how it works. You've been in this game long enough.
If you go on a lie and you made accusations about me, Henry, and said things that were totally untrue, factually, I could have my lawyers go out and sue you.
Absolutely. But he went off what was publicly available. And publicly available, you said JDF wasn't credited. That's a truthful statement. Now today you're saying, well, he wasn't given a co-creator credit.
Correct. And I should have been clearer on that. But also, if you listen to the whole interview, that's what we're talking about.
I would love to talk more about Deoxy, about you saying that Boom Comics took your iteration of the Green Dragon in a dodgy way. Can you like explain that? Because he showed that you guys were ecstatic about being in the comics from your post.
Oh, very excited. We are very excited.
So how did they go ahead? How did they dodgily take your iteration of the Green Dragon, which is actually right here?
Right. So I can actually show you emails from Boom that I basically when it appeared in comics, me and Jason were all excited. We're like, oh, it's so cool. It's in there. What an accomplishment. And then I reached out to Boom and I said, hey, love it. This is so cool. Can you send me all these covers? You know, how are you guys going to credit us? And then Boom was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, what do you mean you don't know what we're talking about? I go, you used our costume. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. What are you referencing? And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm confused. So I'm friends with Dan Mora, who drew all that and was hired to design it. And I went to Dan. I go, hey, Dan, how did this come about? And he's like, oh, Boom reached out to me and says, please adapt the Bat in the Sun comic book design or beatdown design in the comic books. I go, Boom and Hasbro told you that? He's like, yep, Boom told me that, which I have screenshots of all this. So I was like, Boom, what, like, I have your artist saying that you used ours as that was the point of it. So I was like, what are you doing? I'm like, me and Jason don't want any money. I don't want any money. I don't care about money. I go, just credit. And once again, I can see Jason's mental health is falling apart. And I was like, this would be a good win for him. You know, it's cool for me too. But I was like, but just say it was credited. Just credit it. And then, you know, have him sell the books. That's all he wants. He just wants to be credited in what he's doing. And that's why I'm saying it's very dodgy.
Okay, so they wasn't credited, but if they bought if you license it to Hasbro, right? You license to Hasbro probably in perpetuity, so they can use it for forever, right?
To the game. So we license it to I believe it's actually Lionsgate who owns that game.
Okay. So,
So
but
that's actually I think how it gets. I think it's so long ago now I forget, but that's how it works out.
so if they took your idea and didn't credit you, you could
Mhm.
technically sue them, correct? Or is it because they got the license from Hasbro, who did pay you for the idea, that they don't have to talk to you to use
I
the
don't
image?
know. I'm not a big fan of suing people. I've never done it. I don't want to do that because they say that when Confucius say if you seek revenge off someone, prepare two graves, one for the person you're seeking
I
revenge off on
agree.
yourself. So I'm not a big fan of actually like doing that. I showed my lawyers all the stuff about the Green Ranger costume, Soul the Draken, and the lawyer was like, "Yeah, you can sue them." He goes, "You're not going to get any money out of it because comics make so little money." And he's like, "It's going to end up costing you so much money." And I was like, "I don't really want to do that, and it's just a lot of time. I'd rather just create positive things than do that." My biggest thing is I just and recently what's kind of funny is that Boom even reached out to me recently to they were doing a Kickstarter and they wanted to put a lot of Jason stuff in there, and I said just credit Jason. I go, just credit Jason. And they were like, "No, we can't do that." And I was like, "Why?" We don't want any money, like no money. Just give him the credit. You can even leave me out of it. I don't care. Like, I just want my friend to be acknowledged for his love and passion for these projects that he is clearly affected. And so that's what I'm saying. It's very dodgy.
Okay. All right.
Does
And
that make sense?
actually,
Did that make sense? Are you happy with that answer?
I mean, I would love to know this to the extent of how much Hasbro owns of the image, because the way it was explained to me that Boom has access to everything that Hasbro owns. So if you license them I don't know that I'm trying not to get too much up in contracts, but if you license that iteration of the Green Dragon to Hasbro in perpetuity or for a specific amount of years, and Boom is working with Hasbro and they can use any Power Ranger design as they see fit, then technically they would not have to credit you or credit Jason because they got the
And
license
that's
from
true.
Hasbro.
And that's true. And there's nothing. I don't think there's anything untrue about that. What I would say is, and this is just among respect among people, is when I reached out to the people at Boom and I said, "Hey, you're using our design. It looks super cool. Can you send us some comics? Can you give us credit?" And for them to be like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I was like, "You can say, hey, we're not going to credit you because we legally don't have to, but everyone's loving the design. It's so cool. Like, great job." And be like, "All right," just the total blow off. And then speak to Dan. And Dan's like, "No, he totally told me to do that." And I was like, "Well, like, why?" It just adds to all the shadiness and dodginess that
and
Boom
let's
Hasbro's always done.
also add what Aaron was saying. Like, it wasn't about money. It wasn't like pay me for the costume or
Yeah.
whatever. It's about acknowledgement. And I think what Aaron is saying, right? What I know Aaron is saying is that Jason was very about appreciation of, getting the pat in the back, and he never got that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That costume, like I said, that I don't want to say costume, but that
Design.
design was probably the most cosplayed Ranger right after you guys introduced it, right? And
hmm
it was even more so than the original Green Ranger. And I think what was important is like Jason wanted acknowledgement, thank you from Hasbro, Saban, whoever, like, because you're so relevant, Jason. You're such a like iconic character that you built this, and that was never the case. That never happened. And I
yeah,
think that now, I heard people saying, well, Jason didn't hate Lord Draken. No, he didn't. I know that, he did not hate Lord Draken at first, right?
correct.
Because that he saw Lord Draken as the opportunity of coming now and being like, they're going to give him something for him to work on, a more adult theme, something better, and that didn't happen. And they strung him along, and then it didn't happen. And while it not happening, I believe he resented the character. And it's not something that everyone's hearing new from my mouth or Aaron's mouth. It's something that he obviously shared. If you go back and scroll through Jason's social media, the last post with anything Lord Dragon was in 2020. Like, he just wiped everything out of that character because he resented the character, not because he hated the character, not because the character was bad or whatever. It was because it was another thing that he made popular with the Shattered Grid
Oh,
that
100%.
later he did not get any appreciation. Didn't get any appreciation for it. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that Aaron is speaking for Jason. They were out there. All that information's out there. Jason was clear about it. He told me, you guys heard it from the voice text, told Nicole, the other assistant, and everyone, like, wipe it out, take it out, take it off my YouTube, take it off. Even, you know, a lot of the designs, I used to design all his flyers. He would never use Lord Draken. He would never use Lord Draken because he thought, like, hey, this character, mind you, he put that his own money for that Shattered Grid trailer, and that trailer did more than 4 million views. IGN posted it, people were posting it. They, you know, made a ton of views, and probably Lord Draken became such a popular character. And yes, Hasbro made money and made all this stuff, and Jason never got the acknowledgement of, you brought this character up. Not that he created the character. That's not what we're talking
Well,
about. What we're talking about is he made the character popular.
I think maybe y'all thinking about it too small of a scale. JDF should be credited for creating the Power Ranger multiverse. If you think, because that's what Lord Draken was. That was the multiverse.
Yeah.
It introduced the Power Rangers. So,
and me and Jason pitched that idea just a few years before to Saban as a comic book.